Hey, 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 Dr. Minesha here, affectionately known as Dr. M. So glad to be able to be here before you with Akary Busto. Thank you so much for coming into the lounge, Akari. It's so good to have you.
I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, yes, likewise. So now before we open, I just want to set the stage. Welcome to those who are listening for the very first time to the Peace Driven Leader Lounge, where we have real leaders, leaders of leaders who have a sacred place to be able to get leadership insights, legacy insights, and they're serious about real transformation. These are leaders who live lives in home and work and moms and just carry multiple roles, and they understand it's not about how much you carry, it's about how well you carry it. And we have went out and found some extraordinary leaders who understand that very well of what it means to love, live, and lead differently from a place of peace. And now I bring to you no other than Miss Akari. Please, thank you for coming. Tell us about yourself and any information you have in regard to your work and your background in the corporate space.
Well, my name is Akari. I'm actually from Mexico City, believe it or not. Um,
Ooh.
my father's family migrated from Korea, South Korea, to the Yucatan back in the early 1900s. And so that's how I ended up becoming Mexican. My father was born in Mexico, but my mother, right? My mother's just, not that she's just Mexican. I mean, my mother
Right.
Spanish and indigenous, so there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of history there that I get to
Mhm.
really tap into. I got into this work because of my own struggles with my own family dynamics, the trauma that
Mm.
has been, generational stuff that continues to move through, and the more that I have studied and gone down rabbit holes, the more interesting all of these
Right?
oh,
Y
I love it.
Don't you love when that happens?
I
The path of curiosity just takes you, on its
Such a
own
nerd
adventure.
moment. It's like that nerd moment, and so I am that one kid who went to college and could not figure out what she wanted to do when she grew up because everything sounded so fascinating. So I went through wanting to go to law because I wanted to become an immigration attorney to help those people in need,
Mm.
and then I realized, "Oh, they die at 50." I was like,
Never mind.
never mind, I want a long life. And then I thought, with my father's urging, he wanted me to go into business, and I was like, maybe accounting. And so I started going down, business law and all that, and it was just not for me. Finally, I started learning about people's stories, and I was like,
Mm.
really where I need to be. I want to know why, like that curiosity. Why? Why did these things happen in history? And so I became a historian. And as I was doing my bachelor's in history, I tapped into a women's history class.
Wow.
Ah! It was a US women's history course, and it was divided into 2 pieces, and so I did write the past, and then the more modern history, and I was hooked. I was this close to shifting my degree into women's studies, and instead I said, "It all just kinda goes hand in hand," and I minored in women's studies, which was just a
Mm.
phenomenal, facilitated experience where
Sounds like it.
just rich, right? Because instead of
Yeah.
standing at the podium telling you what
You're
it's like,
right.
we sat in a circle, and the whole
Mm.
the whole part process of this was that I know no more than you do. I may know a little bit,
Mm.
and together we can make a story.
Dual learning. Dual learning.
The circle
I
became
love it.
real. The circle became real.
Yeah. I
So
love that so much.
I held on to that for so long, but then, the pressure of going into corporate, so I went into banking. Despite, right, not wanting to do accounting and not going into business, I went into banking. And I loved it because I could be of service to people. I was doing small business banking. That's where I started. And eventually I went into international banking, and then I went off to offshore banking. So I really worked my
Mm.
way through in that same space of history. Like I want to be a part of a bigger picture and help
Yes.
others figure their finances, helping them set their stuff together, helping them transfer from, one big continent into this one or from this one to a bigger continent, helping them save fees, right? That was just like my big thing with
Yeah,
I think
girl, oh, that's my thing. That's my thing. Get stamp these.
so it really I was still using my history degree because I was working with people from all over the world.
Wow.
And even today, now more so than ever, I get to use my facilitating experience with women's studies, and then my history background helps me meet you where you're at.
Wow, this is really interesting. And there was a really huge wave around the global conversation of diversity and inclusion, right? And so you've had a lot of personal experiences around working with people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, demographics, beliefs, and all of this, right? So, what would you say was one of like your secret sauce as a leader of leader, really taking charge and connecting with people? What did you do that really allowed you to gain that trust and that connection, that true, real connection with people across all cultures like that?
I think it's my human design, right? My who I am by design is I am a very open, charted person. And so I see a lot of possibilities and I am very uncomfortable in these spaces where, people say this is how it is. That whole
Yes.
idea of absolutes just doesn't feel good in my bones and my body, and as I started
Yeah.
to learn more about my human design, I realized that really is what I was designed to be, very open-minded, very flowy, very fluid. I'm the one who sits in the back, and I just observe, and I listen, and I take in, and I process things, and I feel my way through things instead of just, coming out and being the first one to say no. It's not often when I'm the first person to say no. I like to take a
Mhm.
sit I like to take a seat back and
Mhm.
analyze and feel my way through so that I can then
Mm.
come from a place of neutrality because we all come from a place of trigger. My
Yes.
my favorite thing to say is that we all inherited a dysregulated nervous system.
I did a podcast today, and clearly that's what she found in her studies as well. 95 plus percent of us are dysfunctional in some kind of way. And it's all about how aware you are of your thing. And, how do you navigate that?
And how we navigate it. That's the key. That's the secret sauce right there is how do we navigate once these blind spots are no longer blind spots, how do we navigate through this? And again, I'm gonna refer to the chart, to the human design chart. As I started to learn more about other people's energy, I stopped taking things so personal.
Mm,
Not about me. You
powerful.
trying to hurt me. This is just how I'm interpreting these events between us. And it
Yeah.
allowed me to take a step back and go, okay, mom, you weren't purposely trying to ruin my life.
Right, right. The judgment releases.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
healing there.
There's a
It's
lot of
healing there.
yeah, there's a lot of healing
Yeah. And I
available.
and I really believe that cornerstone is humanity. Like, even with my mom, my relationship with my mom, a lot of my healing came from let me identify with the woman. She was a woman before she was a mom.
Mhm.
And then understanding the choices, and that from a child's view, it felt different, but as an adult woman, it's like, "Oh, I can see why you made that move," or "I understand how you felt that way," and it's just that full circle perspective. I think sometimes we are in our own mind from where we are today, and that's why I'm always talking about renewing that mind, because it really does allow us to be in a space of, just not being so hard struck and biased in our own way.
Yeah.
Just being more, like you said, when I hear you say open, it just feel it to me, it almost translate to compassion.
Yeah, and again, we go into this history, right? And we all have a history that we come from, and now with the studies that have come through, where we recognize that trauma travels through DNA. I mean, our moms are an example of that, right? Some of this DNA
Mhm.
up and this trauma showing up, and then their struggles. And what we were watching, really, we were growing with them and watching them struggle and not really understanding it because we could see it from a different lens. I always say
Mm,
we put on our trauma lenses and we're, moving,
mhm.
but when we finally take them off, it's like, "Oh."
Yeah, right.
Oh.
That's not yeah, that's not the big what is it? You know the movie we watch where Dorothy and he's seeing the big thing behind the curtain and
The
he's like
Wizard of
and
Oz,
the
yeah,
wizard, yeah, Wizard of Oz. Yeah, and
yes.
it's like, "Oh, that was you the whole time?"
Yeah, yeah. It really helps demystify what we see in our moms as that perfect person who needed to be all put together, and I think
Yeah.
we're conditioned to believe that, and we even believe that of our own selves as mothers. I mean, the
Yeah.
pressure that we put on ourselves to be so perfect and to show up so perfect, and when we don't, the shame, like, we go down this, right? Like,
You know what I do to really help myself with that, Akari? And make sure I pronounce it right. It's Akari or
yeah,
Akari?
you know?
Akari? I did it right? Akari?
Sorry.
Is Akari? Oh, okay, Akari. I had it right the first time.
I love
Okay,
it.
so one of the things that I do to help me with this very thing, and this is for all the parent leaders who are listening in this moment, is that I try to live my parenting out loud and just like in pencil. Like nothing that's happening between us is in pen. I may come back and erase something. I reserve the right to be wiser. We're going tomorrow. Like we're going through this adventure together. This experimenting of parenting and really leaving that and being open to say, man, this is how I felt. Or you know what? When I said no, when you asked me that question, it was really stemming from a fear that I had. I remember when I was in college, and this is what triggered and, like, literally having those type of raw dialogue with my kids so that when they see that, even in the midst of, like, a trauma response where they're saying they're not even being disrespectful, they're just not necessarily complying or agreeing with a particular thought, and they're not robots, they're humans, so they cannot, have the same alignment with the thought, and so, instead of, like, pulling my control card, "Because I said so, it's like, huh, why did I get so, like I want to like stand in my control just because she did not want to do something that I felt or he didn't want to do something that I felt like they should do. Or they didn't pack their bag with the same standard that I pack my bag. Speaking of my son, like, why would you pack your bag? You supposed to roll. Are you supposed to? Or that's your standard of what you want. So you're trying to make me pack my bag the way and we do that as parents. It's like we
All
want
the
to
time.
and it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 back up here,
Stay
you
in your
know?
lane.
Yeah,
Girl, that's like the hardest lesson to learn. Stay in your lane. It's okay for people to do things different. It's a hard lesson, but our children are here to teach us. And I think that that's the piece that we in our generation have misunderstood, that we are also here to teach our parents things, and they're not always very receptive, especially now as we're older, that we see things very different. I know that I don't see the world from the lens of my mother, and I probably never will. She's like a very defined manifesting generator, and it is her way or the highway. So I was the one who was forced to do things the way that she wanted me to do them. So,
that is so interesting that you said your mom is a manifesting generator because I am also a manifesting generator. So I understand the temptation that we have to do that, you know?
well, and I honor the fact that she's here to create shortcuts to
Yeah,
life and
yeah.
and and do things faster, but there's a methodology to the way that I operate. And I always share this with people. I'm a generator, I'm linear. Manifesting generators are not linear, and you skip
Yep,
steps, and sometimes you realize you skipped way too many steps and now you got to come
yep.
back. Well, I don't have time to skip steps. I don't have time to have to go back to figure it out. I just very
Slower.
methodical. And we are so different in the way we operate, yet when we get to the finish line, that manifesting generator has so much more depth because it's like rabbit
Yep.
squirrel
Yep.
following it all around. And it's okay. We're just different. You're nonlinear, I'm linear. Let's just meet in the middle where I allow you to and I have a manifesting generator as a partner. So
Ooh.
funny thing is that he has always triggered my mother wound.
Oh, that's so good.
Because of that energy,
Yeah.
that energy of, "This is how we do it,"
That's
and me
good.
sitting there going, "Where have I seen this before?"
Yes. And don't isn't it interesting how you attract that very thing, though, how that
That you need
works?
to heal, that you need to heal, and so it's been really I now feel like it's been really fun for me because all of the things that used to be are no longer,
Yeah.
and the more I him to do the healing work, the less triggering my mother is to me.
Mhm. Voila!
Win, win, yes,
Yes,
win-win.
absolutely. And that's how he's serving you, and that was a large part in how
Totally.
he ended up in your world so that you can come to this reality. And for those of you all who are listening, and these conversations, when I tell you they're so candid, we don't script this stuff. Whatever comes up is what I truly believe someone needs to hear. And I really believe that there's someone here that's having, some conflict with relationships that are close, like your mother or your father, and there's some friction there. And it's tough when, especially when you're excelling in the corporate space and you're kicking butt and you're reaching performances and everybody is accomplishing you and acknowledging you. And then you go home and you feel like your relationship with your parents, that validation piece is not there. And that, like, dang, it's almost like you never can fully close that circle?
If I could have it all, but no, it's not for me.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a big disconnect there, and for me, I think there was a lot of pressure from my mom to become a corporate, executive, and that was never what I wanted.
yeah.
It was never what I wanted, but I always felt so pressured, and we have this tendency to believe others before we believe
Mm,
ourselves. As a parent now, it has given me that insight of, well, she wants to be a wildlife biologist, whatever,
yeah,
like, let her wildlife biologist and run around chasing animals up and down the mountains.
let
That's
them,
what she wants to
let
do.
them. Right, let them.
And she has joy and she's gonna figure out if she really wants to continue doing this, but she's living her best life.
Wow.
What more could I have asked for? And I think that that's the richness that I missed out on growing up because I was very curious and I wanted to do everything, everything. And had I had my parents' blessing, I mean, not that I needed it, obviously, because
Yeah,
I've done so many different my life. I've never allowed that to stop me. But it would have been, I think, a deeper experience at a much younger age.
absolutely. For sure. Absolutely.
At a
Yeah.
age, that age appropriate thing where children should be experimenting and looking at things and not having all that fear. But, in all fairness, my parents were immigrants
Mm,
and you have two different worlds. You have mainstream world and you're trying to assimilate, and then you live in the little bubble of your culture where you're being shamed if you're too mainstream and
mhm,
mainstream shamed you if you are too cultural,
mhm,
and then you're living with two sets of rules
mhm.
constantly. I mean, imagine the
Yeah,
stress
for sure.
of having to live two different lives in one with two different sets of rules in each of these domains. It's a lot, and I
Absolutely.
I found my I found myself having to separate from the cultural stuff to be able to find myself within
And
myself.
that right there, that's so powerful. And this is what I really want to encourage everyone that's listening is that, and I believe every since 6 months, this should be a part of your evaluation process. And when you look at the word evaluate, you're literally that value. You're looking at what has value in your life, what words have value, what missions have value because they shift. What was important to you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, may not be that important to you then, which connects with your decisions, which connects with what feels soulful, what feels fulfilled. And so if you're just like staying in this old way, it's almost like It's having the cell phone is never updated. You know how it just like it's acting all slow and weird and it's like doing stuff you didn't ask it to do, malfunctioning. Yeah, it needs an update. It needs to be updated. And so many of us are walking around with old processes, old principles, old standards that don't even belong to us. It's things that we've adopted along the
Right.
way. And so it is our responsibility to steward our leadership by doing that work. And that's why I really love this project with the app because it anchors you back to yourself through questions, asking you those questions, getting your
Uh-huh.
morning and your evening flow, making sure you're focused on the priorities that matter most to you so that energetically you can show up feeling more aligned and alive, you know? So tell me a little bit more about your work and what lights you up the most about it.
My work is a little complicated for the regular person because I'm a very complicated human. But I bring it all together. I'm a rebel by nature. So one of the things that I rebel, the most is every time someone needs something, we have to go see a specialist. So we go see a specialist for this, a specialist for that. And then these two don't talk. So they don't really even know and
Mm.
they don't even ask each other questions. And it's driven me up the wall for many, many years. And finally I said, I'm done with it. And I started to really look at the human body from a mind, body, and soul perspective. And so the work that I do is I coach women through their nervous system, but I do it through symptoms. So if she's feeling burnt out, I want to see blood work. I want to
Mm.
see on under the hood, right? Because if the body isn't fueled, it doesn't matter how many times you say your affirmations and
Wow,
your
that's so
meditation,
good.
your body, your vehicle is not ready to rewire the brain. And it's all about rewiring the brain.
Mhm.
If we can't rewire the brain, like you're saying, every 6 months we have to come and
Mhm.
reevaluate. Well, that really has to do with the habits that you have, and we're not aware of it. We have blind spots. So I ask for blood work. We talk about nutrition. My favorite thing is ketosis and fasting because it's the best way for us to hit what we call autophagy, which means the recycling of new
Mhm,
cells.
mhm.
And so when we start to do that, and it doesn't have to be like intense, but I introduce this to my clients because the more they start to eat differently, the better they start to feel,
Mm,
the faster rewiring the brain and the transformation that they want is right there.
it aligns.
Doesn't it doesn't happen if I'm looking at, their mental health and I'm looking at their stress and I'm looking at all of this and I'm not addressing the elephant in the room, which is what did you have for breakfast today?
Mm,
What did you have for breakfast? What value did you put into your
vessel,
fuel
your vessel.
machine
Mhm,
to show up for you? And so a lot of times I find that women who are dealing with burnout have a history of not eating. I was one of them.
mhm.
I used to run out of my house at 6 in the morning without even a glass of water.
Mm.
And time I got to the office at 7:30 in the morning in downtown Los Angeles, I was ready to go because England was gonna be, closing shop, and we know those Europeans love their family time, so
Yep,
I needed
yep,
to get in
yep.
there. And so they have really good
Yes, they
boundaries
do.
around
Yes.
work, and so obviously I didn't.
Mhm.
And it cost me a lot of my health, my metabolic health especially.
Mm.
And, as we start to age, things start to
Yeah.
not function properly, and it's because we've never been taught about our life cycles. And so I bring the human design into it for your nervous system, but also to teach you about your life cycles, which is something we're never taught. Every 7 to 10 years, women are cycling through a new cycle of
Mhm.
life, a new space. And what should you be doing? What should be happening? What should you be aware of? And so I do it because I love women. And the more I teach one woman, that woman has a mother, a sister, a friend, a daughter.
Mhm.
And the only way that we're going to be able to make real change in this life is if we start touching more women out there.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. That is so powerful. You tell a woman something and it changes her life. She is not going to keep it to herself. That whole
Nope.
community is going to be impacted, you know, and then that ripple happens, and it's such a powerful thing.
And
Yeah.
then my whole process of thinking is if we're going to do work, let's do work
Most
that's going to
impactful.
change our lineage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not worried about my brother's kids or my sister's kids or even my parents, like, you're on your own journey. I am really focused on staying in my own lane
Mm,
and changing my
mm.
because I change my lineage. I don't have control over anybody
Yeah,
else's.
I mean, it sounds, you first hear it, it feels selfish because it's like, oh, wow, you don't care about nothing but what your mission. But this is similar to what I was sharing with my mom about politics because certain people are very passionate about different things, right? And I really believe that. And that's why if we all lead ourselves according to our divine conviction, the world just becomes a better place and we rise together. The problem is when we make our convictions someone else's and just like you said, get out of our lane and makes it that. But I truly believe that if a person gets really passionate about politics or education or immigration or whatever it is, that's your thing. Run that thing. Make legacy impact with it. Figure out how you can become a solution to whatever that thing is. And as you're doing that, and I'm doing my thing, and this person has got this passion about whales and saving them, and this person has a passion about foster children, we all come together with that energy, and together we rise. And so I love the work that you do so much because I always speak about integration and and really even when it comes to wealth, like how can you truly create wealth when your number one asset is yourself? You are the greatest risk to your wealth wealth creation. If you're burnt out, if you're drained, if you're not clear, you're foggy because you're not giving your body the right minerals, nutrients, and vitamins. You're too busy worried about filling the cup when you're the vessel. When your vessel is properly nourished, you don't need a cup.
Right.
You are the cup.
You are the
People are pulling from you.
Mhm.
And that's what I hear.
But it makes more sense. It's just having that sense of resiliency because we are, I always I love saying men are the head of the household, right? But women are the neck. We move the head.
Mhm.
And it's a big
It is.
responsibility. Moving the head and the rest of the
Mhm.
body is a big responsibility. And if we don't take care of ourselves, nurturing ourselves, self-care, we are going to deplete ourselves and energy is not it's not forever.
Yeah. So
We need to
if
take
you
care.
think about, let's just say three things that you can share to that woman who is listening to this, maybe at midday, middle of the day where the energy takes a dip. You're barely hanging on. You still
Mm,
got the rest of the work day to go, or that woman who's just getting off of work and she is just like, there. You get to that point where you just put a fork in me, like you've given of yourself, you
mhm,
showed up
mhm.
in heels most of the time, or, just really giving your best. And a lot of times what happens is we give our work the best of us and our family and ourselves the rest of us. And,
Ooh.
and so what would you share to that listener so that they can begin to make that shift?
It doesn't have to be that big. It can be something really small. Start eating protein, savory meals during the morning time before you head on out. Prep for that. Set yourself up for success. Like what can I do right now that's going to set me up for success later? And so if it means meal prep, meal prep.
Mm,
Avoid eating that salad that doesn't have anything in there. I mean the fiber's good, but you don't need that fiber, babe. You need some protein. And it's unbelievable, at least what I've experienced is those moments when I feel like just put a fork in me and I have some protein, it changes my life.
mm,
It changes everything. I know that I am depleted energetically, so I need to give myself some nourishment, not a candy bar, not a protein bar, whole food,
mm,
whether it's like a tuna and then turn that into a salad. I mean, something so easy as that.
mm,
Add an egg, you're solid, you're good. Like
mm.
prepping small little things that are going to be fueling you, that's easy. You don't have to do crazy things.
Well, I hope you have some kind of link or something you can share with just protein ideas because that was really cool. That was simple and practical. If you don't have that, that'll be something really cool that we can get to the community because I know it's hard to put protein, especially with me. I've taken out chicken. I don't eat pork. I really maybe ground turkey, but I don't eat that a whole lot. My husband is a vegetarian. I do eat Alaskan salmon. just for omega
Oh,
3.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So, and then I will eat tuna.
Mhm,
My
mhm.
husband won't, but I will just for the protein. And so, but he's a nut, he cashews and, a lot of nuts based. But just ideas, because that's the thing when it's decision fatigue that I believe that a lot of us, deal with. And it seems so
You know
simple.
what I love? You know what I love is, people make fun of me because I eat the
Same
same
thing,
similar
you know?
every day, so I do not have decision
Yeah,
fatigue. This girl goes to the
that's
fridge and she
powerful.
knows that she's having some yogurt,
Yeah.
some Greek yogurt with, some macadamia nuts because they're the strongest of the nuts.
Mm,
So I'll have myself some macadamia nuts and, electrolytes. I make it with just water and salt.
mm,
Really, it doesn't take that much. It's actually cheaper
mm,
of all the different diets out there, it's actually cheaper to eat h protein and healthy fats. It's much more of a challenge when you're a vegetarian because there's so many different things that they're not willing to eat, but I stopped eating eggs because I had food trauma from my parents, and now I'm like the girl that's eating, like, the omelet with 3 eggs, 4 eggs, because I recognize the amino acids in that egg is I can't find it anywhere.
wow.
It has to be through or let me give you a worst example than that. I'm eating
Oh,
sardines.
wow. Yeah, that's an acquired taste.
I would
Yeah,
never
that's an acquired taste.
I would never.
I would eat it with a cracker
But,
now if I
and
mean, I had to find a cracker because
well,
bread just does not. I wish I could eat more bread. I just Ezekiel bread, and
yeah, it
even in
doesn't
that,
exist in my
sometimes even the Ezekiel bread, I have the grains. When you're over 40, everything changes. The rules that used to work is like your body's looking back at you like, what? That's not me anymore. It's almost like being in this relationship so long, and you're giving that person flowers. It's like I don't do flowers anymore. That's the old me. You're like giving it, and so it's like this new relationship that you have to reintroduce yourself to yourself over 40. It's like, it doesn't work. I used to have a flat stomach. Now it's like, it's not working. The gut health and
yeah, it really ends up being that. It ends up being what and how are you eating? So, I I only eat 2 meals a day, so I'm intermittent fasting most of the time, but I'm also eating high quality grass-fed beef, and a lot of healthy fats that come incorporated with that so that it keeps me I'm probably, like, at a very low ketosis level every day, and it helps a lot because as I'm working out and like you say, as you're getting older, things start to shift, and so I was jumping rope yesterday and God knows what I did and I hurt my knee. And so today I'm fasting because I know after 17 hours of fasting, stem cells start to develop in my body. People pay thousands of dollars to get stem cells
wow.
injected.
And your
I can
body
just
naturally
fast.
creates it. That's powerful. That's
Yes.
powerful.
Yes. And that's why this is the temple. Like, you don't go to the temple. This is the temple. You're
Mm,
here. You've arrived. You gotta
mm.
treat the body like the temple.
I'm all about this. I'm all about this, girl. Thank you so much for your work. It is so powerful and it's making true change. And for those of you all who are listening, what would you like to leave with the leaders of leaders who are giving to everyone else and really just need to take a pause and listen to see what message that the universe and God of the universe, and make sure that we're clear, has for them on today? What would you say? What would you leave with them?
I think that the it starts with me. It starts with me.
Hmm.
A lot of things can stop with me if I choose to. That's I guess it's hard work to make it stop with me, but it's also hard work to know that it starts with me.
Mm,
And the moment you make that decision, it's the moment that transformation begins.
mm. Wow. Thank you so very much for your wisdom, for your insight, your legacy level insight that you shared with us today. I am so grateful. We are so grateful. I speak on behalf of our community. You all heard it here first, you all. Ms. Busto is really coming from her heart today, sharing the conviction on really falling back in love with your body, yourself. You are your temple. It's the best asset that you have. So remember, it's not about how much you carry, it's about how well you carry it. And so you're in the right space if you're looking for the journey to really create real transformation. And you want to do that in an environment where you are free to love, to live, to give differently in your way. right? There's no judgment, and there's a space right here for you, right where you are. So thank you for joining us. And remember, peace-driven leadership is not something you create. I mean, it's not something that you find, it's something that you create. And this is your moment to create it. Until next week, bye-bye for now.